right, all right, all right. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. Welcome. The topic of this video is going to be in relation how to research independent mainstream media. I had something like that in the title. I don't remember exactly, but I plan on going over how to research good quality independent media information that's not state media or mainstream media that has good reporting. I believe it's important to cross-reference information, and I want to go over that as well as some other important information. So, without further ado, this is Dorsey's Resource Channel. I'm going to give a disclaimer. This video is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand that everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for anyone's misuse of the information. Please keep in mind everyone is responsible for their own commercial affairs. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now, let's get into the topic. The topic, once again, I didn't remember, but it's going to be in relation to how to research quality, independent media, referred to as alternative media, but a good term is independent media. That is not so much propaganda that you've been seeing lately by the mainstream media or state media that's been gaslighting people. If I remember, I plan on going over documentaries as well. I used to do a lot of reoccurring videos. It's a reason why I will repeat this topic, by the way, because there's newbies, new subscribers out there, and I want to just give updates on how to stay abreast of quality information. And this is really important because there's some things happening behind the scenes that's going on. I know some people have asked me because I've covered different topics, in relation to the Iraqi dinar, foreign currencies, the revaluation. That's been going on for a long time. I don't talk about that anymore. I do give updates when people ask me from time to time information that I receive. I think some of the information lately is sensitive, but trust and believe there are things happening behind the scenes. And the last couple videos that I did has a correlation or connection to what's also going on with the reset, by the way. But the cabal, the evil cabal, wants something else, a different type of reset that is meant for evil. And it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, and specifically why I'm still public. I haven't gone private yet, and I have ran into some roadblocks and some obstacles out there. I see someone in the chat, just want to acknowledge them. State Bound says peace and blessings. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you for joining, State Bound. But as I was saying, to reiterate, it's the reason I'm going over this important. I feel this topic is important because many of you guys out there that are awake to the truth. I know sometimes many of you all have busy lives. You all have, I have most of my friends, well, I shouldn't say most of them, some of them are actually married. Like, it's kind of split. There's a group of friends, people I associate with that are also single that don't have any children like myself. But then there's friends, people that I've known for quite a while that are married now. I don't really stay in touch with as much or talk to as often like that. I plan on maybe reaching out to one. They have real busy lives, but I do know, for example, one of my friends that does have children, and he's aware of what's going on. If you have your eyeglasses on, he's very awake to the truth. Helped wake me up many years ago to some esoteric things that I was unaware of that are part of the awakening process, and very important when you come into the knowledge and to the truth, to what's actually happening out here behind the scenes. And I'm not talking about just people want to say, accuse this information of being conspiracy theory, there is a such thing as conspiracy facts. That's things that have actually occurred, actually happened, or reality, like what's going on in real time. I remember a couple years ago, I can't remember exactly, the FBI, if some of you all remember, put out a report. It was in the mainstream media, and they actually admitted. I looked for the loophole within the report. I said they got to admit something is true, and they said that some conspiracies, they still call it conspiracies. They said some of them are actually true. This is their own words. This is not, straight from the horse's mouth. I'm just relaying the information. I read the article, by the way, because what's going on is the so-called powers that be, the ruling class elite, aka some may call the Illuminati, that are disguised. Actually, they're incorporated as organizations referred to as, if you've heard of the Bilderberg Club of Rome, Trilateral Commission, but a more recent society, Bilderberg Group, Davos Group, which is the daylight version, is connected to the World Economic Forum. By the way, key is World Economic Forum, Davos, Switzerland. Davos Group is out of Davos, Switzerland. I looked it up some years ago doing research, by the way, which I want to show you guys how to do. Is you can take these keywords from documentaries. When you look at documentaries of people, when they go over information, do a Google search on them, especially if it's a documentary that's going over, truthful information, someone that you know, that you trust, that that just isn't making up stuff. I want to get to the nit and gritty and share with you guys, which I've done already, where to go to find quality information. One of the websites is a video web hosting site. It's called Rumble. If you are not familiar with it, look up Rumble. There's many others that are out there. There's versions of Twitter now. There's different versions, by the way, in case you're not aware, because the reason this is important, if you heard about what's going on, what's been happening in China, overseas, there's protests that are going on in their country. And this is, I hear, is actually a model for what they want to have over here in America. Now, this is real. I'm not making this up. You have to, if you stay abreast and pay attention to the independent media, they actually will share and go over this information and talk about it, that the mainstream media, CNN, the MSNBCs, will not go as in depth with their reporting. Please understand this. Trust and believe. And this is very, very important, because leftists, oftentimes people that are on the left that vote Democrat, progressive, oftentimes accuse information of being false, but that is inaccurate a lot of times, because they have the power in terms of dealing with the mainstream outlets, because they control Hollywood, the entertainment industry. A lot of the major tech giants have a tendency to lean very hardcore to the left, like the Apples of the world, the Microsofts, by the way, the Twitters, well, before Elon bought it, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, they have a tendency to be very progressive in their ideology and the censorship. And it's been, in more recent times, there's this excuse where these leftists, you'll hear these people say, well, these private platforms they don't have to allow you on their platforms, and they can do whatever they want. That's not true. I'm telling you, that's not true. The reason they're getting away with this, though, in many instances, and they have been sued, like that's the reason why Facebook had to change their name to Meta. They were hit by lawsuits. Google as well. This, once again, CNN, MSNBC. Many of you, if you haven't heard already, may not have heard, but Google has settled a suit where people had sued and found out Google Chrome's web browser was still tracking people's cookies, and the incognito private browser that people were using. That's a separate browser from the regular browser. You can use private browsing, and they discovered there was a group of people. Somehow, I'm not a tech person. I'm a little tech savvy in some instances, but I have friends that are more advanced, and I refer to when I need help myself. But somehow a group of people got together and actually sued Google. You can look this up if it's online, but they, of course, don't want people to know this, because, they control a lot of the domains. And I've looked at independent media where they've broken this down, how Google has a major monopoly, and even has done things using torturous interference to shut their competitors down. But not to get off track, when people say these private companies can do whatever they want to do, that is not true. And that's similar to what some people argue in sovereignty when it comes to corporations accepting negotiable instruments. Keep in mind, all public corporations are under public law. It's up to we, the people, to enforce those laws that were put in place, by the way, through the codes, the statutes. Even though that stuff is still public, those of you all who know about the private sector know about the private side and how the elites operate. There's still rules when those corporations are operating in the public, they have to abide by. And originally, when the YouTubes of the world, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Twitters of the world, they had to originally register as public utilities, by the way. And it's the reason, if you've heard me mention this before, why I brought this up in the past, like utility companies from years ago, before you had in the modern day era with the internet phones or Vonage, you had landline phones, and you still have lights, water, gas, sewage. They could not discriminate against anyone based on XYZ, race, color, creed. Is just obvious. And it was the tech companies or internet web hosting providers. Originally, it came out registered as public utilities, meaning they were under these rules. And there's some type of law supposed to be a loophole out there, but still, they are not supposed to just egregiously just censor one side of the aisle politically and be doing things behind the scenes. There's actually a rule where politicians are not supposed to meet in secret, and some have actually been fined before. Look up the Logan Act. Some people who formerly attended the Bilderberg years ago, they actually were hit with fines over $200,000. Not saying because a lot of them are connected to the bankers, the evil ones, that it's easy for them to just, get the access to the funds, because, many of you all know about fractional reserve banking, then they're pulling, in some instances, funds literally out of thin air. They fractionalize what people's deposits they have on account, where, the fines that banks and stuff gets are like slaps on the wrist, just as well as these politicians I'm referring to that have been caught that were violating the Logan Act, or whatever. I believe it's the Logan Act. Don't quote me on it. You can look it up. But this was in a documentary. Look up Endgame by Alex Jones. It's a documentary he did, still relevant to this day. It's called Endgame: Blueprint for Global Enslavement. It came out some years ago. You still should be able to watch it for free on YouTube. But if you do have the money to buy it from his site InfoWars and you want to support him, and that's not the only documentary that he's done or other people have done exposing the New World Order, the ruling class elite, the evil ones, the evil cabal that wants depopulation, that have a eugenics agenda, that does not have our best interest at heart. Understand this. This is facts. This is information that's already been reported on. So fact check all these other, groups that are trying to discredit the independent media and always dismiss things as being a conspiracy theory. You got to watch that. You got to use critical thinking. As I've always encouraged you guys, use critical thinking. Always be careful of that. And understand, even if you talk to relatives or friends that have this certain type of talk where they're always accusing you of being a conspiracy theorist, then, if they're not willing to listen, don't worry about them. Just move on to people who will listen. There's a saying, and I think it's in the Bible: he who has ears, let him hear. He who has eyes, let him see, he or she. So people have to, by their own cognizance, but I commend a lot of you all are awake to the truth. A lot of people are still waking up and seeing the control mechanism is becoming more clear. But don't spend time, just those people who give you a hard time. Just know they're agents. Keep your eyes on them too. A lot of them, those people, some of them are just blinded because they believe the mainstream media. And I'm here to tell you, the mainstream media is not going to be forthcoming with you about the New World Order or what's unfolding, what's coming on down the pipeline. And this is important because they want enslavement for all of humanity. as many people as possible. Trust me, when I know there's things I can break down, even what I'm going through in my modern day life with dealing with trying to become free, trying to truly become sovereign, get out of these contracts as I'm still punching the clock. And there's wicked things happening. I see it even through my job. You know, I'm being scheduled all of a sudden. Crazy. I won't go on necessarily all the details, but some of you guys know from the past. And I said I had to tell my supervisor may have to call them again. I was considering, taking legal action, and they were like, "Go right ahead!" Like they're so bold and emboldened because when you have corrupt, for example, corporations, corrupt politicians, they feel they can do anything that they want to do. But there's other instances where you can flip the onus on them and level the playing field. I also consider contacting the local news. I actually spoke with a news anchor downtown Detroit. I found out he actually had just retired. A friend of mine was actually with me at the time, this reporter that I ran into at the time I happened to catch. And he told me when I went over some of the information, he said he was willing to do a report on what I had to share with him. It was in regards to something else. It wasn't in regards to my job. But of course, once I build a rapport, I have a relation with them, then I will consider contacting other journalists or anchors as well. He told me he was willing to cover the report. This is a true story. But unfortunately, I found out he just retired not too long ago. Sometime, I won't say the name, but some that are in the know may have an idea who I'm talking about, with the major local station in the Detroit area. Just retired, but I actually spoke to him. And he told me, he asked me, did I have a YouTube channel? And I told him, yeah, I did. And he said he would run a story on it. And, this was in relation to something else. So I said, I'm trying to be nice, but it's like I come to these people, just to give you guys an example, I'm just using my employer, the person that's in charge of the scheduling. And it's like I look on the schedule and I'm scheduled 6 days a week. And, that interferes, those of you all that know I study redemption information. I study sovereignty. I originally, for a while, I was like semi full time. I wasn't full time, and it's like all of a sudden, since I started this new position, I had 3 days off in a row. Then I went to 2 days off, for example. Then I went to where my 2 days were broken up, and then it's looking like lately it's just 1 day off in a week. So I've already spoken to them in the past, and I said, they wouldn't like it if I just go and contact the local news and have a news story ran on it. If they keep playing. You see, this is the level, sadly, you have to take things to sometimes. And this is, just using this as an example, this is how these corporations are. And they can even get worse because the way technology is moving and the way that these companies are abusing their authority that they have. It's not really if you understand the laws, but it's like they want you to follow the laws and things, but they don't want to. But to go over once again, remember, if they're operating in a public, all corporations are under public law, color of law, statutes and codes. Statutes are meant for the public. They're copywritten. You see, there's a difference. When you understand those that do know about the private sector and how those that study sovereignty and things dealing with, I call it redemption education, using this as an example, there's a certain way you operate. And I have a friend for years, he mentioned he had been on the fence about this information, and he actually told me not too long ago, he sees that this information is real, but he just doesn't understand how to operate, and I get where he's coming from, because even at the advanced stage I'm at, there's a lot of new information that's come out, and I myself am trying to figure out the way to navigate, because one of the things they do is they use the banking system where debt is their weapon, where they don't want to follow the laws when it comes to honoring from negotiable instruments to certain types of transactions, or you don't know who to go through. That's been done on purpose. And I was discussing with someone privately a while ago, a guy, I would say down south, he invited me to his platform. He taught classes on how to get corporate credits, like business credit, but higher lines of credit, by the way, pertaining to corporate credit. And he was telling me, we were having a discussion. This was a while ago. I got to catch back up with him when I get a chance. And he was stating that he said, hey, Dorsey, I believe it's somebody at the top. This is from him. I'm not saying his name to protect his identity. Of course, we're in a completely different state than I am, but I was just saying in the southern area, one of the states down south. And he stated that, he said that, I believe he said it's somebody high up, or it's a group of people that has all the correct information. This is dealing with sovereignty. And it's like they're spoon feeding the information down to the people at the bottom. So these people, whoever they are, can charge for their different processes or procedures that people go through. Now, I know some people are independently well studied or have a background in the law, but he was saying that there's a structure to this, because I remember when I attended these events some years ago. I don't know if he did himself. I'm not sure if I discussed that with them, but I did share with them how these private events that I attended some years back, over a decade ago, around a decade ago, approximately, they were sharing information with us that was not privy to the general public. I tell people there's templates, there's documents I have. I can prove this. I have audios, I have documents, I can substantiate. And over time, I can break down very well what took place. And it's very sad I'm not funded now. These things, a lot of other people, it's like we were just, many people were just left hanging or devastated from that. Some of us submitted packages, don't know what happened with some of our documents that were part of that, those seminars. That information were Social Security cards, birth certificates were submitted, DTC, Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, eligibility questionnaire forms, Wizard payment form, Wizard against acceptance, those forms. They're like, what the hell happened? And individual resurfaces many years later saying you'll be made whole if you do this, X, Y, Z. And something told me, I said, I wonder if it's going to turn into the same old. And it turns into the same old. But someone told me, they say, hey, Dorsey, if you don't get those documents back, that's fraud right there. That's a form of identity theft. Because that's they still holding your private documents. That's a form of identity theft. And from there, they say you should contact the U.S. Marshals or, take some type of action. I said, I don't know if I can take legal action, because it's like these people are above, I won't say above the law, but, they're outside of the system. And there's difficulties, when they're outside of the system. And that's even, I think, for them as well, if they want to try to say they want to go after you or her for being public or whatever, the way that they operate. But just the bottom line is that at least if they're not going to get people funded, return their packages, because the head administrator promised people were going to get their documents back. There was a guarantee. It was like an ironclad guarantee. If this doesn't fall through, then you will have this black card right here. And this was the promise that was made, solidified. So it's like, we've been waiting all these years, and then our documents are still being held behind the scenes. So I've actually experienced this. That's why if you guys have heard me in the past say I'm an insider, and that's why I said I will stay public, and I will tell my story. I won't shut up until I get my documents back. If they don't want to get me funded, or as well as other people out there, I encourage you to go public if you haven't already, because I did hear some people contacted the FBI in Tampa, Florida, some years ago. I heard some people contacted the FBI in Orlando. I got an email that someone in Ohio was going to contact the Attorney General. That was an attendee from some years ago. I don't know what happened with that. I get emails from time to time, even though I do have different sources. There was one email that came out there. I don't know who that person is or was, but there was other people I could testify that were frustrated, and there was someone who I found out that reached out to me that knew someone that I knew who attended as well. And they had asked me what happened with their documents as well. It's very concerning, very cruel, very evil, very manipulative, methodical, very dishonest. This was not Christian-like. So imagine if this is happening. I'm sharing this. This is something, a personal experience. If this happened to me, guys, on a private side, can you imagine what's going on the public side? This is a true story. As God be my witness, I swear on both my grandmother's graves. As God be my witness. I'm just saying that imagine if this happened to me and others on a private side. Can you imagine what's happening on the public side? So that's why I wanted to give you guys. I know I may have seemed like I got a little bit off track, but I want to paint a picture for you guys as people that tell me, hey, say, hey, Dorsey, you're passionate. When you talk, when you speak, sometimes I can see or hear your passion. I just want you guys to know this is a warning as well. You're going to need to warn your children. But a lot of these agendas that you see being pushed out here, I won't go into all the details, but different agendas. It's based behind the New World Order, the evil cabal, dealing with the ruling class elite. Some may refer to as the Illuminati. It's a criminal global syndicate. It's a criminal syndicate. Bigger than the mafia. By the way, it's not just the mafia. These people are more powerful. They were actually, I think, behind taking down, because I was hearing reports that there was like a crackdown on the Italian mob worldwide. I had saw reports where there was a casino that was hit in Canada. I don't know any of these people. I just saw the news report, and I heard and I saw it was ongoing for some years. They were actually going after, if you know the history, the Sicilian, that you can only be similar, like you couldn't just get in because it was a black mafia guy years ago that tried to get accepted. And he didn't understand at the time he had to be bloodline part. He had to be one of the 5 families, I think, out of Sicily, out of Italy, or whatever, to be part of that, to work his way up. I think his name was Frank Matthews. I saw a documentary on it. That's how I learned this documentary. They had he approached them, and he didn't understand. And they drove him even where he lived at one time. They harassed him and stuff because you can't be. But there's another group that's more powerful than them, and that's what I heard here. That's what I'm referring to, the ruling class elite. And some people say, when I use the term Illuminati or ruling class elite, some people say, well, you're putting them above everyone else, Dorsey, or we shouldn't use that term, that they're not better than us. But the thing you have to understand is that these people, it's not that they have superpowers or anything. They have accumulated a lot of wealth and corporations, and they have an infrastructure in place. And they have a team of people that are connected to a lot of different secret societies, things of that sort. If you read between the lines, that can bully people, can harass people. They call that gang stalking. By the way, look up what gang stalking is. That's the tactics that these people use, by the way. They use gang stalking tactics. Gaslighting, that's another term. That's like what they did when they tell you what happened in 2020. I won't go into the detail. I won't say the word because, of the censorship, but that's what the mainstream media is doing when they tell you that thing didn't occur back in 2020. That's gaslighting when there's evidence. And I plan on down the road still, just give me some time, my Rumble account, delving into that and how, like what happened here in this jurisdiction versus what happened in other states. But this is the reason why I've gone over like sites like Rumble, Stay Abreast, InfoWars, aka Banned.Video. Go to Banned.Video if you can. If you're a high roller, you have deep pockets. It's important that you support Alex, keep the movement going. They're trying to scare you with the lawsuits and stuff. He explained Texas has a limit that in terms of in a settlement of what someone in a lawsuit, the amount of funds they can take, by the way. So they're doing things where they're using the propaganda of the mainstream media to also he explained, to try to intimidate his listeners and people, longtime supporters. And you guys got to ask this question too. I'm going to give you guys, something trivia to play right now, or use brainstorming, as they call it, or critical thinking. I've been a listener of his show for quite some time. Some years ago, I think from what I recollect, there was a guy, friend of mine I used to work with. I won't say the name. I used to work for a security company many years ago, and his friend showed me these documentaries that he did on Bohemian Grove. It tripped me out. It's many years ago. It's about 20 years ago now, approximately. We're going on approximately 20 years ago sometime. I can't remember exactly, but I know it was around 20 years ago. And I was amazed by this. I think I had already heard of who Alex Jones was. I didn't really know. But some years later, I've learned a lot throughout the years. And I would say within the past decade, I started paying more attention. I follow other people as well. There's other independent media, like you want to check out the Stu Peters show. Check out the Stu Peters show. He has a lot of good quality information. These people, they interview doctors, very well-respected people with credentials. Now, the mainstream media will try to discredit these people, and even they're doing instances, even operations as far as military operations in some instances, to try to threaten these people behind the scenes, even threaten to take their licenses and stuff away because they're speaking out on what's really going on. That's not only happened to Dr. Judy Mikovits, but Dr. Sherry Tenpenny talked about this. What's this? There's another doctor, I think Dr. McCullough, something like that. Not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I think he had been a guest on Alex's show. And these are actual credible people. Remember, there was, when that event first went down, there was these doctors that held a press conference. Remember Dr. Stella Emanuel, the African sister who was a doctor. Stu Peters interviews her. She's been like a reoccurring guest. So when you follow the independent media, to give you guys an example, by the way, versus the mainstream media, CNN and MSNBC, for example, I'm giving you guys the ability within the title to show you guys, this is how I research. I'll go to Rumble every now and then. I'll go to other independent media sites like Brighteon.com. That's Mike Adams, the health ranger. Check out Brighteon.com. By the way, Brighteon.com. Look up. If I was in front of my computer, I put it in the chat section. And in my previous video, you guys can check that out. I think I went over some of these websites. Banned.Video, Banned. Sometimes he changes the URL because, of course, the cabal people try to attack the domain and stuff like that. So sometimes he has like some alternate domains out there. I actually have some, and they still do work. You may have to use a different web browser on your phone to pull this information up. Download Brave. Brave, it's good to have a backup web browser, because I've noticed it's like the web browsers are trying to make you download the apps and things to keep better track of you. It's just crazy and weird. And to give you guys an example, I was at a game store recently, and I was trying to get a discount for my rewards membership, and I know that's a form of a contract. By the way, adhesion contract. But that's neither here nor there for the time being. But to give you guys an example, I was trying to pull up the log into the website through my web browser on my phone, and I noticed I couldn't get into my Yahoo email account. And I would put the password in, and it would say, a message would come up. It would say taking too long, and it would say something like get the app. So I would hit the button to try to download the app. It wouldn't even download the app. So I said, hell, and then even my other browser was acting up. And do you know what's interesting? I was finally able to remember my password and log in, but I had to use Brave's web browser through my phone. And I have a Samsung. I'm using a Samsung Galaxy, which I am aware these phones are public down the road. I know about there's these other phones that are encrypted, by the way, that can use these, what do you call, the Android operating system, but there's a level of encryption or privacy. I bookmarked them. I actually came across, I was going through some of my bookmarks today because I had to order some equipment, some dealing with mechanic stuff, a coolant spill kit. And I came across my bookmarks, and I saw there's these encrypted phones that I heard on Alex's program. I wouldn't have known. Well, a lot of times, to show you guys, he has credible guests from many different backgrounds. By the way, this shows credibility, I would say even more so than the mainstream media. When you pay attention, you stay abreast of what's going on. For example, he has a host of guests with people from different military backgrounds, medical people, and he's explained why the New World Order, these evil cabal people want to try to shut him down, and they're using that lawsuit by the way, as a tool. And I'm telling you, I've been a long time listener. So this is what I was going to say earlier. So if somebody says, "Oh, he's a conspiracy theorist," that guy's a nut. Don't listen to that guy. Or I don't like him, or he's a white supremacist. You hear all these talking points, especially from people that are on the left or that are progressive. In some instances, there's people that you don't know are politicians that have an agenda, and sometimes some of those people don't know because they haven't done their research. They're just going by with the mainstream media, the talking points from Don Lemonhead and other idiots they're not going to share the full circular information, a well balanced perspective, not just the one sided perspective, but cover the real information that these people have talked about, not just their radical side, to show clips here and there when they're ranting, but when they speak in a scholarly manner and go over actual and show you the websites, they show you templates. That's what Alex Jones does when I've looked at his program. Sometimes radio listeners, he has to explain they don't have access to his video web hosting platform. They can't see, but he says some of his listeners that can, he'll show the documents and the websites, and I'll look them up to cross-reference to see if, the information he's going over is accurate, if he's telling the truth. I'll research it myself, and I'll pull up the PDF files to show you guys can do the same thing. If you guys know how to research, it's easy. That's why I titled this video, but I wanted to show you the credibility, not just Alex, but there's other people that are out there. I'm just using him as an example, but that's why they're attacking him. But the question I'm going to ask you all is, who are you going to believe? Somebody who's been a long-time listener of Alex, or are you going to believe the mainstream media, somebody who has a biased perspective of him? Are you going to trust? Are they going to tell you the full truth or perspective, despite how you feel about him? Because I know he's been accused of these things, other than that, allegedly. And I'm just a listener. There's millions of people, and people worldwide. I found out he had an extension. There's like a satellite office. He has a reporter in England, Paul Joseph Watson. He's got different reporters. And he's even partnered with other independent media as well, because he's had, of course, dealing with that court case. He couldn't be at the office. So I've noticed he has like this other group called Flyby Conservatives. How I found out about Stu Peter, I think he even had Stu Peter sit in. You know how when radio hosts have other guests or hosts sit in for them, whatever. That's how I found out about some of these other independent media. But these are just a few I can think of offhand, but there's other websites to research out there. You have Getter, for example, that's GETTR. That's like another version of Twitter. He interviewed the head CEO. He interviewed the guy from Minds.com. I think his name was Bill Ottman, the guy from Minds.com. I'm on Minds.com, Dorsey's resource. I don't spend that much time on there. I still have to learn a lot of these platforms because I'm really busy working and I'm doing other things, of course. And I kind of went over that earlier, what's happening behind the scenes with me, how they're what my job is doing is trying to keep me basically from accessing my freedom. And some of these things are being done strategically to give you guys a heads up, so it will behoove you to stay abreast of this information and what's really going on out here, so that when things, as they're coming down the pipeline and things get worse in some instances, you will be prepared and know what to do, like storing up food and emergency preparedness, with food shortages coming down the road. Where the word I'm getting, by the way, I've heard about this before, is we could be facing a potential power outage or cyber attack. And that actually was quoted, if you stay familiar with the elites, from one of them from the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, by the way. He's mentioned this in different speeches he's done, and you can look it up on YouTube. The video might be available, or do a Google search, but he said it out of his own words. And this is something they're probably planning, but he said that, and they're going to blame it on a group. They're going to say, oh, it's Chinese hackers or it's Russian hackers. They got to have a story. That's going to be the excuse. That's what people said would happen when the 2003 blackout happened, or power outage, massive power outage on the eastern coast and parts of Canada happened. Those of you all that remember that, people were saying, "Oh, this is like the Philadelphia project, or it's that project from years ago." So he's saying there's going to be a massive power outage or cyber attack. Just using his own words, straight from the horse's mouth. These are not my words. Something Klaus Schwab said. So when you watch Alex with InfoWars, he's trying to warn you as far as what's going on, how evil these people are. These people don't have our best interest at heart. They're into eugenics, population reduction. This is just the basic stuff. But they've openly said, and Klaus Schwab's personal advisor, Yuval Noah Harari, who I heard he believes he's a god or something like that on the earth and flesh. He actually believes that. Look up Yuval Noah Harari. I hear he's the advisor to Klaus Schwab. He's part of the World Economic Forum as well. And he says that humans are no longer needed. That these people are into transhumanism. You know, they want to merge us with machines. This is real. Look up the technology. We're in the future now. And we're not too far away from actual Terminator. And I found out, I talked to a friend of mine who's an actual scientist and inventor, told me some years ago, before I knew about this, that Skynet was a real corporation, by the way, just like the name in the movie Terminator, Skynet. But another friend of mine, separately, so I don't want you guys to get confused, told me, check out the movie RoboCop. He said the movie RoboCop, which I haven't looked at that in years. I had it on one of my other desktop computers, one of my old computers someone gave to me some years ago, running XP. I had, I think, maybe part 1 or 2 on there. And I might go back, look at my other files and see if I have it. But I was informed, you want to check out RoboCop. That has a lot of cryptic messages, part of how they want. And there's a lot of movies as well that they put it in the movies. Remember Nick Rockefeller when he told Aaron Russo some years ago? When, if you know that story, Aaron Russo, the producer that did Freedom to Fascism, but he produced actual Hollywood movies, Changing Lanes. He worked with Eddie Murphy before. Then he came out with a documentary some years ago called Mad as Hell, and he told the story that he was contacted by Nick Rockefeller's lawyers. He said, "Would you like to meet Nick Rockefeller?" He said, "Oh yeah, why not?" It was believed to be they try to recruit you when they can't buy you out, or, you know, I guess when they found out, or obviously in the name, I don't know what the documentary, I never saw that one, but I did see Freedom to Fascism that Aaron Russo produced, rest in peace to, he passed away. But he tells about, he was a whistleblower some years ago in a way, where he talked about his relationship privately with Nick Rockefeller, who's part of the bloodline. Their family is listed in that book called Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier. If you haven't got that book, I don't know if Alex Jones still sells it on Infowars.com, but that's where you can purchase it at. It's called Bloodlines of the Illuminati. There's also a PDF file online you may be able to look up, but I wanted to have the paperback book. And the paperback book might have more pages than the PDF file online, and it's just good visual to have in case, you know, they remove stuff, take stuff offline. I even heard they're going as far as to burn books and stuff, like Berkeley University is removing passages and stuff because they want to push this woke agenda. They want the wokeism. I'm not saying that there's important parts of social justice that I do support, so don't make it seem like, oh, I'm mentioning a talking point from the right, because there is things that happen to people, but at the same time, keep in mind there's an agenda. Like I said earlier, there's many different agendas that's being pushed, and it's important to stay abreast of. One of them is to control the flow of information, and they want state propaganda from they call state media. In other countries, they'll use the term state media. Over here, we still say mainstream media, but there's a version of state media, as they say. Even your local news is being ran. There's a subsidiary corporations, like, for example, ABC here locally, Detroit, WXYZ, is under Scripps Howard, and then ABC is under Disney. Disney owns ABC now. I think Comcast owns NBC. I think Time Warner may own CBS or something like that. And then, you know, Viacom, they used to own YouTube. Now YouTube, their parent company is Alphabet. and the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, the same ADL that that contacted the NBA in regards to the Kyrie Irving situation. A friend of mine shared with me privately, who studied political science and journalism, to show how you guys, I'm credible, and I cross-reference my information with credible sources, reliable sources I have. I don't just spew stuff off the top of the head. I just want you guys to know that behind this information I'm going over, even though right now I don't have any notes in front of me, I do have credible sources, and my source told me, I won't say his name, but he's very well studied historian that I know, that's separate from a couple other friends of mine that are historians. And I didn't originally know this, but some years ago, he had a secret security clearance when he served in one of the branches of the military. That's why I won't say his name to protect his identity. But he told me recently, he contacted me out the blue. I thought it was very interesting in regards to, I hadn't heard from him in a while. It was good to hear he was doing great. That Kyrie Irving, with the Anti-Defamation League, he said controls the, what is it called on YouTube? They call that deals with like misinformation, censorship, stuff like that. The community guidelines. He told me that the ADL is over that. They dictate, and I said, wow, I didn't know this, because it's believed to be, some of you guys came to my YouTube channel a while ago and stated that I had been shadow banned, by the way, and things of that sort. And I appreciate you guys letting me know and sharing that with me at the time, because that appears, and I noticed recently, since Elon Musk took over Twitter, I noticed I shared a post. I'm not on Twitter that often, but when I do share messages or posts, they wouldn't really get that far of a reach. I would get maybe, if that, 2 or 3 like emojis, to hit the like button or like the love button, however it works. You guys know how Twitter is, has that love emoji you can hit. But I noticed I shared a post a while ago in regards to, I wanted to show my support for Kyrie Irving and the situation that Kanye West was dealing with at the time, during that time period. And I noticed my engagement, I had like about over 50 reshares. And that's the first time I had that many reshares, by the way. So that tells you that my Twitter was suppressed, and that these guys had a power behind the scenes, these big tech companies suppressing the algorithms. They're weaponizing these social media platforms. So I encourage you guys, get on other platforms, by the way. Even though I'm still on YouTube, I'm still on Facebook, but I'm redirecting. And if you have a big platform, or if you know someone that has a big following or big platform, warn them. Share this. Hey, look, so-and-so, hey, you may need to get your subscribers over here, because if you say something down the road, or they decide that, hey, we want to ban you from talking about alcohol one day, or they say we want to cancel that, or we want to cancel cigarettes, you can't mention cigarettes no more. You can go to these other platforms and you can talk about it, and you won't have to worry about getting shut down, or if you're monetizing, or you're optimizing, you can have your traffic over there. So I just want you guys to know, just in case anything happens to me over here, you guys know in the description box, even though I'm not as active, you guys know you'll be able to find me on those other platforms. Even if I decide down the road and I do totally shut down some of my platforms, because I am considering, going private, but I will let you all know. Well, you guys will see, obviously, I'll make an announcement. But some of these platforms are very public, like considering down the road my Facebook's, my Instagram account, which that's my more liberal side, could eventually get shut down one day, or I would deactivate it. You have that option. And there's ways to set your accounts private as well. But a lot of these other independent web hosting platforms like MeWe, they don't sell your information, or they promise they're not tracking it with cookies. Like when I told you guys earlier that Google was sued, by the way, this didn't get a lot of attention because, of course, they control a lot of the internet, where they found out Google Chrome's incognito browser, that's the private browser. You have this in other web browsers. Look up private browsing. It may be called incognito. It's a form of private browsing. Google was sued and had to settle because people discovered they were still tracking their cookies. So I'm showing you guys evidence that's happened. That's why Facebook had to change the name to Meta. There's other lawsuits out there to show you how these platforms are violating, breaking the law, so they feel they can do anything they want to do. So don't listen to that BS when people say, "Oh, Dorsey, there's their private platforms. They can do whatever they want to do." Now, how come that they were sued and they had to settle? I'm talking about these are cases they lost, not the bully lawsuits they won or they pushed to the side because they have a team of lawyers and war chest of money, which they know you don't. And that's why they want to test you or abuse you. But you have to ask the question, why did they have to settle? It actually happened. But you won't hear it from MSNBC, CNN. No, they don't want you to know. They want to keep it hush hush. You see? So I'm just sharing with you guys. I'm going to go over before I shut things down. I'm going to go over the comment section, try to acknowledge you guys before I get ready to get out of here. But I wanted to let you all know that's how I research, how I stay abreast of information that's going on. And it's important to warn your friends, warn your loved ones who will listen, because there's some perilous times coming down the road, and we can stop what these people are doing, or we can, I would say, slow it down, because the more people that wake up to the truth and know how to combat this, they can be defeated. I was informed. So, the fight lives on. Hold on for a second. Guys, I'm going to have to turn this music on. Temporary. Hold on. You guys already know I'm at the plantation. I call it the slavery plantation. But I wanted to let you guys know also what's going on behind the scenes. Why I haven't been able to come before you all as much, because I went over this earlier. What's funny, since I started this new position, I had 3 days off in a row. Then I went to 2 days off. Mind you, this is like a night shift. I don't get off till 4 a.m. in the morning. So this goes into the night. And then now lately I checked the schedule and they got me on 6 days a week. Crazy what's been happening. I want to read this comment that I got. I've just kind of zoned out. So to those out there who contacted me or text me, I'm not ignoring you. I want to let you know I just have to decompress sometimes, because this is mentally stressful. And when you're an honest person and you're trying to be fair, I don't want to have to contact the local news media to have a story ran on this company, or contact the law firm I already looked up in Troy that handles employee disputes. And I don't like I don't even want to recontract, because I know that they're all up in the jurisdiction and stuff, and I'm still working on updating my status correction documents and things to get completely to the other side where I can be more private and things. But I try to be fair, but sometimes you get to a point, it's just ridiculous. But that's what's been happening with my job privately. But I'm gonna read this comment to you. This is what someone who was concerned said. Appreciate that. That's real. By the way, that's what I've kind of been going through. And so I just want you guys to know that's why I haven't done videos as much lately. That's the real reason why. Also in the past, what I talked about was true. From that event that I attended, they were upset, or the individual, of course, because you guys know I won't say the name of who I was referring to at the time. by the way. Oh, thank you for that message. They told me someone just shared with me my YouTube stopped. So I'm not sure if that's because I closed out the window temporarily. I was going over at the time that the individual shared with me. They were concerned because of what I was going through, what I shared with them behind the scenes with my employer. But I'm just I wanted to let you guys know, because you guys are family and you guys have supported me. Those that have stayed loyal to the channel, I greatly appreciate you all. And I have something down the road, something special for all those who contributed, donated. You know, I'm looking at, I still haven't forgot about you all, doing a private or exclusive webinar sometime for you all. So I got things, surprises still lined up down the road. Once I can get myself completely free, the way I do things, it'll just be easier for me once I can get out of this all together, because it's like, it seems like, because the way my work schedule is, it's almost as though the individual might, I think they do know I have a YouTube channel. It's like they're trying to, I can't say necessarily hate or sabotage, but I was getting revenue from that, my consultations and my monetization. And it's like they're trying to, you know, with the job, they're trying to basically make it where you don't have a life, where they damn near own you. And a friend of mine was sharing with me earlier in the day, this is like what they want to have, what's going on in China. You guys, some of you all may already know, there's actually protests, I don't know, they're still happening over there that were going on recently. Large protests have broken out in lots, you know, different parts because of the, you know, the lockdowns they're having. And you guys know, if you read between the lines and know what they did, but why isn't the mainstream media reporting on it as much? Now, they may have covered it. Now, in some instances, they may show a clip or two. But one thing is InfoWars or other medias such as Brighteon or some of these other web hosting sites, True Social, Parler, where people share links to videos, Getter, Minds.com, or Gab.ai. I forget the work that Andrew Torba is doing. Big shout out to the work they're doing. People share the links to other independent sites, and that's how you can bookmark and stay abreast of the information that the mainstream or state media is trying to cover up or is not talking about, because they want to control the narrative, by the way. So it's important for you guys to stay abreast of the real information. So don't get where you're not caught up in, you know what I mean, just believing the official narrative. So with that said, I'm going to read the comments before I shut things down. Richie Rich says, thumbs up. Appreciate you, Richie Rich. Says, you can't be nice with evil. Yep, true. Richie Rich says, hey, Dorsey, have you tried using your black card lately? Maybe it works now, just wondering. Actually, you know, I have not. I do have it. I do still have it, by the way. And I was actually informed privately by a couple different sources that I have that it's possibly that it was active at one time, but they, you know, could still, they have a way to turn it on. I was informed, allegedly. This is being alleged because I haven't tried it yet. So I'm honest with you guys. So no, I have not used it or attempted to try it out. I did years ago put it in an ATM machine, and the ATM machine made a quote or told me at the time it was used. It had some instructions in there, by the way. So it actually recognized, and this was before the chips were mandated, like on the newer debit cards, by the way. And I hear that's going to be changing in a few years or something like that. They're going to be mandating how the structure of the debit cards and stuff, they're going to be changing again. Okay, it says, Richie Rich says, Federal Reserve mob. Yep, you're right about that. WX2 says, this is what people didn't understand about what Yee, they had him pinned, paid his own lawyer to steal his IP. Everyone thought he was crazy. He got out of every contract and didn't even hire a lawyer. I see, yeah, he's staying abreast. That's interesting. I do hear some people say he knows about the straw man stuff. You know, I wouldn't be surprised because I told a friend of mine when I was invited to some of those TDA calls back in 2017, I thought I heard Kanye West on one of the calls that I was on. Somebody on there that sounded like him. I said, I believe that he knew who I was or was watching his channel or somebody that I was connected to, because, and that's separately from the calls that I was on where I met some of the anonymouses at the time. If you guys remember that movement that broke out that summer, we guys were attempting to access that, it's died down. Some people may not be aware. Some people didn't know about that. But those of y'all that remember, I do remember Kanye West, it sounded like was on some of the calls back then with Harvey Dent. I met Midwest, Money Boy, Extra Light, Triple Moore, Mike O'Brien, during that time period. I thought I heard Kanye, because you had Jermaine down in Texas. Jermaine, who worked for the post office. Big shout out to, he had the server, the Batcave, when we were using the Discord app. So I don't know who had the connection, but I swore back then it was kind of deep, but I'm not surprised. But I thought I heard Kanye West was on some of those calls back then I was invited to. So I've always known, I always thought he behind the scenes. I'm not surprised to see him come out this publicly, by the way. And I actually heard Alex Jones talk about a while ago, since I was a listener, that he was due to come on his show a long time ago, and way before he came on there recently, and so people were threatening or trying to keep him from coming on there, by the way. But he finally made his way on there, so I've always known he knew who Alex Jones was, because I stayed abreast to what was going on. Mary Saunders says, good evening, Mr. Dorsey. Good evening. Thank you for joining, Mary. Not sure if you're still on here. WX2 says, six corporations own it all. I wouldn't be surprised, says controlled opposition. Moneyboy Film says, what up, Dorsey? What up, Moneyboy in the building, family? What's good with you? WX2 says, the end state they want is one global government, one currency, one set of laws, total control. Yes, sir. That's totalitarian control. Yep, totalitarian dictatorship. You also have Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, they come up with the solution. Order out of chaos, because in order to have peace, you must have what? Chaos, because they want the people to beg for help when they caused it in the first place. They created it. This is how powerful they are. They have machines that can control the weather. Look up HARP, High Auroral Active Research Project, based off Nikola Tesla's scientific research. Look up HARP, High Auroral Active Research Project information. So now, not only do they have the technology, the capability to control the weather. I just came across a video where I was watching that the Navy had a pool that can simulate the oceans. And I bet they probably use the Navy SEALs to train there or practice there. So it was real interesting. It's like a 20-minute video. I didn't watch the whole video. I watched about half of it. Sometimes my attention span, I so absorbed with lots of different information from sports to all type of things. But I said it shows you they have the technology to do a lot of things. So you have to understand we're in the future now. They also, I just heard they passed a law in California to use autonomous, what they call robots, to have the ability to execute people. Some say, I thought it was California. Don't quote me on it. But, they have the robots out there. They're getting that prepared. Boston Dynamics. So this stuff is real. Common Sense says, peace and love. Thumbs up, 100. Thank you, Common Sense. Appreciate you. WX2 says, Firefox is the best to use for now. It has a free VPN built in. The same guy built the new Brave blockchain browser and digital currency wallet built in. Okay, that's good information. I appreciate that. And you know what I did? I use that browser. I do have that as a backup. Because with one of my GameStop membership, when I was trying to get my Digital Game Informer magazine, whatever reason, I was able to access it on that browser. I couldn't get it through Google Chrome. And I don't know if that's because it couldn't access the cookies. Because when I use Chrome, I normally would use the incognito, the private browsing, because the other browser is more susceptible. I have to update my antivirus software. I have like a basic protection, and my firewall on my computer helped to a degree. But my basic protection said that there was something out there that was tracking my cookies or whatever. Said I was it noticed some compromises. I didn't know AVG is a really good antivirus protection software. I know Norton is really good, but this company called AVG or something, so I'm thinking about going with them. They were giving me updates all the time, and I'm using a old Windows 7. So yeah, there's stuff going on. I can confirm they are tracking people's data. I don't know all the details behind the scenes, and I did hear about. I read an article. Excuse me, several articles, and I've watched news stories about those. What do you call those devices? Stingrays. They can pick up. They can intercept Wi-Fi signals, listen in on phone calls, etc. There's different. They generally can be used by the government, different alphabet agencies. But I've heard private people that they have the money to purchase them. They can range anywhere from several $5,000 to $200,000. They can call Stingrays or something like that, and they can pick up Wi-Fi signals. That this is what some of the criminal hackers are using, members of the deep state. But see, it's about control. They want to control people. Things, they're using it for evil, corrupt purposes. So just be aware. WX2 says, my comments was just me responding to topics you were speaking about. As you said them, my apologies. Oh, no, I understand. And I didn't know if you were mentioning Alex Jones, if he's the one you said is control opposition. Some people believe that, but I personally don't believe that. If that's who you're referring to, control opposition. By the way, I know different people have their favorites to listen to. Like there's been a division even in the conservative movement. I was talking with a relative, my younger brother and my mom. They swing more to the left, and I was telling them we were took my brother out for his birthday back in November. And they were saying on the way back in the car, she was saying something about Trump's taxes or dealing with that situation. And I said, well, there's some things going on where there's a rift happening within the Conservative Party because people didn't agree with them on the vaccine. By the way, Alex Jones didn't either, even though he promoted Trump. He was he interviewed him, but they didn't agree with them on that, on his stance on that. Remember Candace Owens in that interview she did. So I was explaining to my liberal relatives, there's different within the conservative movement, and I'm personally not a registered voter, guys. So I'm apolitical. I'm what you call nonpartisan. Partisan is where you're pushing for one side or the other. Democrat, but I'm not on neither side. But I admit I do lean more to the right because I support God, family, and the Constitution. I support the original nuclear family structure, which Black Lives Matter did remove from their website at one time. I don't know if they put it back up, but I know it was removed. Because I saw Brandon Tatum when he got in an interview with Fox Soul, and the lady on there tried to lie and say that, and Brandon tried to tell her that's not true. And I saw that myself. There's a lot of people, even on YouTube at the time, before the big censorship took place. There was censorship going on back then. They reported on that. So that's why I support the moniker, but not the organization is corrupt itself. And I have to still check out the documentary Candace Owens. I didn't see that yet. But I'm for God, family, and the Constitution. The nuclear family structure. I support that unapologetically. I think that's what'll fix the Black community. But I don't condone babies out of wedlock. I also think blended families, people who are pushing that, are still broken families. I mean, to each his own. I'm not judging people in that regard. Things happen if you can work out. But I think marriage in this country has been weaponized, very biased towards men. Just my opinion about it. It's not really that's not really the topic, but there's a lot going on. But in my opinion, that's why I do lean more to the right. But I was having a conversation, letting my mom and my younger brother know in the car that just because you support, they know that I felt Trump was, to me, was the lesser of two evils. Some people don't like that. I felt he was the better option because I know the real history behind the Democratic Party. And this is a fact. Anybody can look this up. You can do their own research. But it was the Democrats who organized, started, members of the Democratic Party organized and started the Ku Klux Klan historically. I found out under President Obama, the Democratic National Convention removed records they had on, removed records they had that a Grand Wizard has spoken at the first Democratic National Convention. Or one of, I shouldn't say first, excuse me, but one of the Democratic National Conventions in the past. I didn't even know they kept historical records when I did research on it. Because a friend of mine told me, and I wanted to see if he was telling me the truth. And he's a conservative. He votes Republican. He votes red. Like I said, I haven't been a registered voter since 2004. I don't vote anymore. That's just me. I still respect the process of voting. I uphold that. I don't want to be attached to the negative consequences behind it. That's just me personally. There's other things I'm aware of. And plus, I think, what occurred, and I didn't touch on it because of the censorship going on. But, I saw you guys were paying attention and saw what happened back in 2020. I'll just leave it at that. I don't think that your vote in some instances counts only when they want it to count. Just my opinion, by the way. So for those out there, because the reason I bring this up, and it's a pet peeve because I have these Democrat liberal women most of the time on Facebook, which has become an echo chamber because they heavily censored, just like YouTube and before Elon bought Twitter and other platforms. We're trying to say, oh, you need to get out and vote. If you don't vote at all, that's a vote for Trump. Most dumbest, idiotic shit I've ever fucking heard of. Excuse my French. If you don't vote, that's a vote for Trump. This is some dumb stuff. And I hear Stacey Abrams down in Georgia, she loses. She blames black men for not coming out to support her, and still shows statistically that black men voted 85% to 95% of black women. But the other groups that she supports more so than the black race itself, the Africa Diaspora Channel pointed this out. So I'm paying attention. They didn't even vote for her as high as black men and black women. Still saw her the most support in terms of race. But she blamed black men for the reason she lost to Brian Kemp. Stupid, idiotic stuff, but she supports policies and things to push, I won't say the names, but the different agendas where you can have two mommies and two daddies, and the woke transgender story time, which I saw on the local news. There was a mother spoke against, and there was a guy from the alphabet community that told her and said, good luck with that. These are obvious agendas to tear apart, destroy the nuclear family structure, and it's a cover to bring in pedophilia. Yes, I said it. It's a cover for that. This is not about anybody can be who they want to be. If that's how people are, if that's, I don't knock you if that's what you're into, that floats your boat. But hey, look, don't force me to wear a dress. Don't pass a law where I have to be required to wear a dress. I'm a man. I was born a man. Just idiotic, foolish stuff. These different agendas, you can obviously clearly see it being pushed. That's coming from the Democrats. That's not coming from the right. So fuck all this bullshit that Republicans, they're two heads of the same snake. They're not trying to destroy the family structure though, like the Democrats, liberal progressives are. Policies more so. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of things Democrats go, even though I'm using profanity, still goes against my moral standards, my moral belief. I still have moral values. I'm not perfect. Like you strive to hit the mark as Christians, we all fall short of the glory of God, but we strive for perfection. We strive to do better. I acknowledge that. But at the same time, when somebody is knowingly, openly engaging in sin, that's a problem. But it says in the Ten Commandments, were clearly written, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. Things obviously, even though I know this, people argue dealing with that other agenda, but I'm just saying, so that's why I lean more to the right than I do versus the left. I have a liberal side, but I support, and I know the history. Black people should know better. Frederick Douglass was a Republican, by the way. Booker T. Washington. Most of the historically black college universities, even though I know a relative tried to debate with me and say, yeah, it was Rockefeller that started, but he was still a Republican at the time that started historically black college universities. Yes, if you don't know, Republicans started them. It was Democrats who cut the funding. I got confirmation. Funding was cut again for HBCUs under Biden. Funding was cut under Biden. Trump increased the funding, by the way. Trump actually met. I saw it with my own eyes. If you believe me, you might be able to find the videos if they didn't remove them on YouTube, where Robert Johnson, who started Black Entertainment Television before he sold it to Viacom, was at the White House with Dr. Ben Carson, and they talked about some of these issues when Trump was doing policies to try to help the black community. But CNN and MSNBC will have you always make him out to be a racist, white supremacist, etc. That he had this dinner with Nick Fuentes, who he didn't even know was coming. By the way, he didn't even know who he was. But they make this stuff out to be. But these are things he was working on. What do you call that? Opportunity zones. And CNN, MSNBC wouldn't report on this, but I would watch all the media, whether it's left or right. I still paid attention. I watch OWN. I watch Newsmax. If I'm gonna watch MSNBC, CNN, I want to see what lies they're up to, and I want to compare notes. I want to see who's telling the truth at the end of the day. So understand, a lot of these Democratic relatives you have are progressives, and they always try to tell these one-sided stories. I'm trying to tell the whole story. Don't just tell one side. But this is a fact. You can look up back to the Democrats started the Ku Klux Klan. Democrats voted. They created the Jim Crow laws. Democrats created the Black Codes. Mississippi, I found out, the state of Mississippi created their own version of the Black Codes. That's why to this day, when they had that situation with the water, I told a friend of mine I wasn't surprised. Yeah, there's things that really happen. I forget the term that's used. But yeah, but that was done by the Democratic Party. That was not Republicans. And there's some Republicans that don't even know that. Some white people, Caucasians, don't know this history. That's why black people, and you can use this argument when you debate against black people who are progressive or liberal. That's a negative stain on their history. And I saw a quote by a black woman that said Democrats did a lot of damage to black people that can never be amended or repaired unless they pass reparations. Because when Lyndon Baines Johnson passed the entitlement programs, that was just an incentive for black people at the time, because you can't inherit food stamps and welfare. When Lyndon Baines Johnson quoted on record, said, "I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years." That's his own words. This is a famous quote. I had a guy who was a liberal even admitted this to me. Look this up. Lyndon Baines Johnson, after he took over, after Kennedy was assassinated years ago, and that civil rights legislation, when that was passed. But Martin Luther King was doing the best that he could, by the way, on behalf of the black community. He spoke against the Vietnam War. There was footage on it. If YouTube didn't, once again, they censored it, removed the footage. I don't know if you'll still be able to find it, where Martin Luther King spoke before he was assassinated. Look it up. He spoke against the Vietnam War. He was adamant. I saw his speech because some guy tried to shut me down. I won't say the name. Normally I do. Is Michael Imhotep from the African History Network a while ago. Well, I had bought some DVDs from that guy, but was part of a fraternity. I've seen him on the Roland Martin show. So that lets me know, like the Africa Diaspora channel, I'm critical of you. You're part of any secret societies, fraternities. You have potential to be bourgeoisie, like Dr. Umar says, an agent. And there's other things I know, but shut me down. I said, I saw the video footage. How are you going to tell me what I didn't see? It's crazy. These people, some of these boule people, they call boule Negroes, will try to shut you down when you're trying to wake your own people up. See, that's they want to keep. They don't want black people waking up. A friend of mine who's a conservative said he told a guy he drives for Lyft, said something about if black people figure out how to do math and how to do something else, he said they'll take over. He said the white guy started laughing. But it's real. That's why they want to keep a large portion of minorities in the black community dumbed down. But black people, if you know the history, that's why Martin Luther King, when he was a registered Republican, he applied for a gun purchase permit too, by the way. You look up the movie with Malcolm X that Spike Lee did towards the end, when Malcolm broke off from the Nation of Islam, several members of the Nation of Islam went to protect Malcolm, he was using a shotgun. That means he was pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment. Damn it. Because liberals try to say, oh, if Martin Luther King was alive today, he would be a liberal. Okay, well, which version of him would you have? But they won't tell you that Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were registered Republicans. They weren't Democrats. I'm just saying, I didn't even know this until a couple of years ago. I looked up the history. A friend of mine, so I said, are you serious? He said, yeah, look it up. I looked it up. So Democrats created the Jim Crow laws. Remember, we couldn't use certain restrooms, water fountains. That was the Democratic Party. That wasn't the Republican Party. That was Democrats, by the way. Yes, it was Democrats. I know you're scratching your head like, but no. And Tiffany Cross from MSNBC was wrong. I saw that video she did where she accused certain black men of being Kevin Samuel types to try to shame black men into voting Democrat. And she tried to say that back then that that today the Republicans of today were the Democrats of yesteryears. No, that's not true. That was when you understand the policies of the Democratic Party, what they've morphed into. It's just Kennedy was an outsider, similar to Trump. The reason the majority of black people switched over to the Democratic Party in the 60s, and I got confirmation from a relative, by the way, that confirmed what a friend of mine who was a historian told me, because Kennedy, black people at the time felt John F. Kennedy was looking out for them more so than the other Democrats. He wasn't a traditional Democrat, just like Trump is not a traditional Republican. Similarly, two opposite parties, but very similar in their policies. Because of that, it's like the gentleman, he broke down even further. It's not that black people, because there was racial tension at the time. He said they felt that it's not that they trusted this white man, but they felt he was a better option or lesser of the two evils, that he was looking out for us more. So that's what created a fracture. And then once after he was assassinated, Lyndon Baines Johnson took over and he passed the civil rights legislation. Those were the entitlement programs. They had it all planned, and that's what led to the welfare state. You also had the women's liberation movement funded by the Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation. Gloria Steinem admitted she was an agent by J. Edgar Hoover. That's now declassified information. Declassified. Gained momentum late 60s going into the early 70s. Women's liberation movement. They also brought drugs in the black community. Black Panthers felt Martin Luther King wasn't moving fast enough. What's his name? J. Edgar Hoover didn't like them. He felt they were more militant, even though they don't tell you the Black Panthers were networking with other minorities, other ethnic groups. This is why I said black men had done a lot for even other ethnic groups. They had food programs set up for children. They made them out to be some militant group, of course, dealing with the community, but they made them look bad. And they also disproportionately drafted a large number of black men in the Vietnam War, which Martin Luther King spoke against. And right after that, Lyndon Baines Johnson started calling Martin Luther King the N-word preacher. This is right after Martin Luther King had just won the Nobel Peace Prize. I wasn't born yet, but I saw a little documentary. YouTube may have removed this. I don't know if you can still find this clip, but it had showed the video footage of Martin Luther King speaking. So you're hearing it straight from the horse's mouth. I saw this. Will liberals talk about this? No, because they want you voting Democrat. They want you voting for the donkey party. But as what I'm going over is will show you and solidify. That's why if I was a registered voter, I would be a Republican. And black men, especially overall, you need to know your history, by the way. Now, some states, places, things that ran different. I do get that as well. But overall, you still look up know the history. The Democrats also burned down Black Wall Street. That was the Ku Klux Klan. 1921, that was the Democratic Party. The Klan had chapters in multiple states. The Ku Klux Klan started once again by the Democratic Party. Look that up. Also look up the book Minister Louis Farrakhan came out with years ago. Actually, it was the Nation of Islam's Historical Research Department. And they got this information from rabbis, Jewish leaders at synagogues. It was called The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. Look up the book, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. If you're questioning what I'm saying, the validity behind what I'm going over. For the fact checkers out there, know what I'm going over is facts. But I still encourage you, like I gave a disclaimer, Do your homework, research, use critical thinking, use brainstorming. Don't always believe the official narrative. This is real journalism. And see, I didn't go to school for communications, but I have common sense. Understand that. You see, that's why I'm talking the way that I do. So you guys will wake up and research and stay abreast of the information. We can stop this new world order. But if people want to stay brainwashed, then we're going to get, what we have coming to us. Greg Reese did a good report with Banned.Video. It wasn't just about the video he did about Kanye, aka Yeezy, Yee, but look towards the end of the video. It was a real good video. Greg Reese is a good historian with Banned.Video, and I have several friends that are historians. I cross-reference information. They've done some really excellent reports. And if you can, it would behoove you to make sure you buy Alex Jones' products. I would still support Alex no matter what. I bought his products, and they do work, believe it or not. It's not like some people try to say it's snake oil, but that's because they're biased towards him or whatnot. But his products have helped me. His super male vitality, I'm on a graveyard shift. If I didn't have that super male vitality, because coffee is actually not good for you overall. If I was meeting with the holistic health specialist, I'm only supposed to actually have a little bit, according to my my Eastern birth chart that goes over your organs. I have a friend of mine who's really good at that. I know about that, how you have your yin and your yang between certain organs. And it did my my whole chart, my Eastern chart, based on my diet, said you're only supposed to have, everyone's is different based on when they're born. But make a long story short, the super male vitality that Alex Jones sells does work for me. It helps me get through the ship, this tough ship that I have with this grueling schedule, which I explained to you guys earlier. Nobody else, when I look at the schedule, they scheduling 6 days a week like this. I'm just saying, so that's what's going on. I really didn't want to mean to be before you guys as long. I'm going to read the rest of the comments before I get out of here. See some more of you all have came in. Okay. Common sense. Okay. I got that. Peace, love. Says, okay. I read that comment from Firefox. WX2 says, my comments was just responding. Okay. I read that. Change This Life says, Change This Life says, thumbs up. Appreciate you. Tanya Reynolds in the building says, greetings, Dorsey. I'm glad you can't be bought to wear a dress. It's a shame that some can be bought. Yes. This is what they're trying to do, Tanya. I'm glad you understand I was able to get that across, because this is literally what the policies, they're trying to disguise it as, they'll call it hate speech or, other things. But there's an attack on religious freedom, religious expression. And they're trying to put that other group basically on top of that. And that's dangerous. That sets a dangerous precedent. But there's also a way they're trying to legalize pedophilia. So guard your children and warn your relatives and family. That's what's coming down the road. This is something Candace Owens went over too. This is very real. I can confirm what she's saying. There's documentaries I've even gone over in the past. I've given you guys. Watch that one called Conspiracy of Silence. If you can still find it on YouTube, look up Conspiracy of Silence. There was a scandal going on with Balenciaga too. I told a friend of mine about. Look that up. That's on Banned.Video. Look up Rumble. Go to BitChute. BitChute. Look up the Balenciaga. They call it Pizzagate 3.0. Because you gotta say if Nancy Pelosi calls this stuff a QAnon conspiracy, which is goofiness, but you gotta ask the question: if this stuff with child trafficking wasn't real, then why in the world, you guys remember when we had Jerry Sandusky at Penn State? I know you guys heard about Prince Andrew, the Queen's relative who got demoted. Remember him, his connection to Jeffrey Epstein? Oh, remember Epstein's situation, but that was separate. Oh, do you guys remember the Nexium sex cult? Oh, do you guys remember the actor Allison Mack was connected? I saw WXYZ didn't do a video story, but I saw an article on their website about it when I first heard. And then I found out Allison Mack, the leader of that, pled guilty of it up front. I was like, wow. So all these instances, we had Jerry Sandusky. You guys remember that with Penn State? Notorious, going on for years. You guys remember when that was big in the news? But Nancy Pelosi and these Democrats and Chucky Schumer will tell you that Pizzagate is a QAnon conspiracy. They get the fuck out of here with this bullshit. Excuse my French. But all these things, all these mainstream stories have happened, have been reported on, even by mainstream media outlets. Good Morning Today, Good Morning America, reported on Prince Andrew, Jeffrey Epstein. Look at Ghislaine Maxwell, the Nexium sex cult. They was even connected with Richard Branson, who owned a private island just like Epstein. Then you had this other guy, Peter Nygaard, who Oprah Winfrey interviewed some years ago, or whatever. That had an organ factory where he would pay even some black women to have his baby and have them aborted to use their organs. Well, look up Peter Nygaard, Alex Jones. InfoWars did a story. That's why they want to shut Alex Jones down, because he covers the real independent media that CNN, Criminal News Network, and MSNBC won't cover. Understand that. That's why I'm passionate. You guys hear the passion in my voice sometimes. Forgive me for the profanity, but that's just what I get tired of. I see the BS. But look at all the instances I just named. Jerry Sandusky at Penn State. The Nexium Code, the actor Allison Mack. Look that up. That's even on YouTube. Still public. Ghislaine Maxwell. Jeffrey Epstein. Remember, what's his name? Dr. Phil did a story on a lady. They got rid of that show, didn't allow it to air no more, of a lady who mentioned she was trafficked, put on private different islands. Even Dr. Phil covered this. This sex trafficking stuff is real. Look up Allie Carter. Look up her story on Rumble. Look up Allie Carter. Believed to be, she might be Tupac's daughter, aka Tori Outlaw. I remember they used to say the Outlaws were Tupac's cousins, and I put 2 and 2 together. I said that actually might be his daughter when I listened to the story, watched a lot of the videos. But look up Tori Outlaw in California. The adopted woman adopted her. They're on a run, and she has eye-opening information to confirm this stuff is real. Look up the interview she did with Stu Peters. Look up Allie Carter. Type in ALLYCARTER. Look up Ted Gunderson. Look up Ted Gunderson. Look at his older videos if you can still find them. If you can't find some of these videos on YouTube, you may need to go to Rumble, go to BitChute, BITCHUTE, BitChute.com. You also have, once again, the sites are similar to Twitter. You have, what's the name of that site? Trying to think of the name. You have Getter. You have Frank Speech, you have True Social, you have Parler. I'm trying to think of some others. You have MeWe. There's some other ones out there. Odyssey. I was informed Odyssey's good. Minds.com, Gab.ai. You want to support these platforms, and they are growing exponentially, believe it or not. But you want to have a way to get the word out, to network with people that are really in the know. Because a lot of these leftists don't have our best interest at heart. They disguise themselves to mean well, but I'm just sharing with you, this is important. Okay, it says, prayers. I'm read the comments again, and I'm going to shut things down. It says, WX2 says, when people learn the facts about the history of the Democratic Party, they push the story that the parties flip, but nothing in history supports that the parties ever flip. Yup, facts. Many don't know that Nixon and MLK were good friends, but JFK capitalized on the fact his brother Robert Kennedy's law enforcement connections to get Martin Luther King out of jail, and then that was pivotal back then. Okay, oh, I didn't know about that. Okay, wow, that's good. I can see that. There's even books and stuff, by the way, guys, to show you I'm not just spilling off the top of the head. I've gone over in the past. I don't have them in front of me, but a friend of mine gave me a book, and there's information that you can also pull up to get the credibility out of this information. For those wondering, because you know how you have the fact checkers of the world, mainstream media say they'll call certain things a baseless conspiracy theory. So to give you guys context behind the validity behind this information, There's books like one of them I mentioned earlier, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Also look up David Icke's book called Children of the Matrix. Look up Children of the Matrix. It's a good book. Look up the book called Beyond the Light, by William Sinoblin. Look up a book called Beyond the Light by William Sinoblin, called Beyond the Light. I'm trying to think. That's a book I had personally. I had to repurchase it. The original version I had autographed by William Sinoblin. It wasn't given back because it's believed to be, when somebody sees it's a Mason and they see you're not a Mason, a Freemason, then they're supposed to take the property from you, but this individual never gave it back. So I repurchased it, and it's interesting. I bought it off eBay when I repurchased it, and they sent the letter in the book. They were Christians and said, "Thank you." Sent a very nice, warm letter to show their appreciation. I find that interesting. I bought things before online, but for somebody to take the time to write a nice letter out like that shows you, in Christianity, I found out played a pivotal role behind slavery in the early 1900s. Not necessarily the Muslims, but Christianity, the Pilgrims, the Amish, the Quakers. I didn't know. I learned recently they were against. They felt the Bible. They were against slavery. That's why they assisted Harriet Tubman. And the Republican Party and Christianity played a role in that. This is what a friend of mine, we were going over. A lot of black people need to understand. Christianity and Republican Party played a role in freeing the slaves. And this is important to understand this. This is why there's been an agenda even for certain religions and to corrupt Christianity as well. Well, I'm awake to the truth. I plan on down the road doing a documentary covering religion. I'm gonna give a big disclaimer behind that though, but I'm gonna go over some things about religion. There's gonna be some real powerful information. I've got notes directly from a historian that's been overseas in Egypt that saw the pyramids, has the videotapes, has like a miniature Vatican library, and it's broken down the Bible, some of the books that predate the Bible, where the Torah, the Tanakh, where these books derive from, because you have to go back the previous time periods, previous civilizations. You had many different civilizations that existed, and you have to go through the time periods, and how when a conqueror takes over a civilization, they take over the belief system, or they change the belief system, but where they got it from. There's documents, even where the languages derive from. The Medu Neter. If you've heard of the, what is that language called? Not the hieroglyphics. A friend of mine he's better, at articulating it. Of course, this is not my specialty. That's why I consult with my historian friends, by the way, because this is their specialty, their skill set. But the original language, Aramaic, was one of them. I believe, don't quote me on it, was one of them. They say some believe that the Messiah, the original Mashiach, spoke Aramaic. That some argue, but that's where many of these languages, they had a parent, like this English language we speak today, this modern version of English. There was an older version of English called Old English. It sounded like broken English, but it's changed over time. And these other languages, there's relations, like the Romance languages. I forget all the details, like between the Spanish language. You notice how some of the words are similar, or to Latin, what I took Spanish, but also called Latin. The Latin language, French. So when you get into learning that, it will help open your eyes up, help you connect the dots. Historically, even this stuff even overlaps in sovereignty. In the court, while the court system, they still use Latin, by the way. A friend of mine mentioned what's the only part of the world where they speak or use Latin. He mentioned the Vatican. I found that interesting. They say all roads lead back to Rome. What do they consider the religious arm of the world? Rome. What do they consider the financial arm of the world? England. What do they consider the military arm of the world? United States. Interesting. What do all three form? A trust. They form a trust. Interesting. See, there's a connection. So, change this life says a lot of happy slaves. That's funny. Tanya Reynolds says, yes, Change This Life says, preach. WX2 says, it has been interesting to witness the ongoing shift. Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum and others as well have done a lot to show people what the real deal of how we have been tricked. Says that's why the current administration wants to keep the border wide open to make it easier to traffic children and women. Everything you're saying is true according to my research. Oh yeah, I forgot about Hunter Biden. I remember Jeffrey Epstein. You guys remember when that Jerry Sandusky. Remember when that Jerry Sandusky story was big? Remember, he was real big at Penn State. They protected him for years because they had, I was surprised Coach Joe Paterno, because I pay attention to college football. They had shamed him after that, said he covered that up. I was like, man, but what can he do? Because that went all the way real high up. Basically, it was connected to Epstein as well. And then there was a guy who died, but remember that, because the reason I'm going over this, because Nancy Pelosi and Chucky Schumer, the Democrats, will tell you that QAnon believes it's a conspiracy theory that it's an elite group or cabal running the world that traffics children. Wouldn't you think after these reports that I've gone over that there may be some truth to this? When Trump was in office, you guys remember there was a bunch of arrests happening around the country. I was seeing reports even from Georgia to Ohio, Indiana, state marshals rescuing children. Scratching my head. So I'm going over, I forgot about Hunter Biden, the laptop situation. Why haven't we seen an investigation on this? We always hear about Trump's taxes. Well, is that worse than Hunter Biden laptop? And would anybody survive that scrutiny that Trump is going through? If you were in his shoes, say if Stacey Abrams was in Trump's shoes or had organization, Stacey Abram organization or empire, and had her taxes scrutinized, will anybody survive that? When the tax laws change from year to year, time to time, who would survive that level of scrutiny? Just ask it, by the way. But notice, we didn't see none of this stuff till this man became president. They hate this man this much. Not saying the guy's perfect, but look at what all these other administrations have done, especially the ones that claim to care about the people. If you know what I mean. If you read in between the lines, they claim to care about the people. But I noticed this man, he stays in the news. He stays living in their head. It's funny to me. I wake up, it's a story every day about Trump. I said, y'all giving him more publicity. It's like when I was young, I was in middle school, Nintendo used to tell me. I used to be a big fan of Nintendo. I used to have classmates who used to battle. They were in the Sega Genesis, just using this as an example. I used to hate Sega. My older cousin had Genesis. I didn't understand from a marketer perspective. Sega was like for a lot of the older kids. We're in the Sega, a lot of younger kids, we were in the Nintendo. And Nintendo used to tell me, I used to call them up years ago. I think their number 1-800-255-3700. If their number hasn't changed. And they actually gave me a nickname back then because I used to call so much. I actually got, I won't go into that right now, but that's neither here nor there. But they stated that when Sega would put their system in their commercials, the Super Nintendo, they would give Nintendo publicity. Nintendo said Sega's doing us a favor by putting our name in a commercial. So I said, when they put Trump's name in the news every day, Kanye West's name, they're doing nothing but giving them attention and publicity. A friend of mine told me this years ago. He said bad publicity is good publicity, good publicity is vice versa. It makes revenue, it makes money. But I find it interesting when they had this man's name every day. I said they're giving him publicity too, despite the censorship and how hard they're scrutinizing him. This guy stays living in their head. It's not a day that I wake up, I look at the headlines. Who died? I look at Bing. I use Bing search engine. I use Yahoo, which my mom told me. She studied communications at Cleveland State. She told me those are running through the Associated Press. See, I can break this stuff down from a collegiate perspective, how well studied I am. So a friend of mine's mother-in-law studied in a similar discipline. She worked in public relations and human resource. Those are related fields. Those fields overlap. Those disciplines, we call them. So I just find it interesting. I asked the question, but once again, to jump back to if this QAnon that Nancy Pelosi, Chucky Schumer, these Democrats claim believes is this there's a worldwide conspiracy theory. They believe it's these elites running the world that traffic children. And you wouldn't think it's not no truth to that when you look at what happened with Jerry Sandusky at Penn State, when that was in the news, remember some years ago, Jeffrey Epstein, his girlfriend's trial, Ghislaine Maxwell, remember the Nexium sex cult, look that up. Richard Branson was connected to the actor Allison Mack, played in, I used to watch the show Smallville. I didn't know who she was, because I don't keep up with actors, like knowing their names and stuff like that, to a degree, but I'm not. When I did see the article ran by Channel 7, WXYZ, they didn't run a video story, but I saw the article, news report they ran. That's how I found out. Allison Mack was connected, and you can look that up on YouTube to confirm if you want to know the validity. So you had that story going on. Then you had Prince Andrew. Then you had Hunter Biden's laptop. You guys still believe what Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats want you to believe? Just saying. If you compare what I'm going over to what they're saying. But they always try to make it seem like, oh, we're crazy. We flew over the cuckoo's nest. No, we didn't. I'm giving you points of references. Go to BitChute, go to Rumble, these other Odyssey. What are some other platforms? I can't even think offhand. Truth Social, Frank Speech, Gab.ai, Minds.com, platforms that don't censor. And you'll find some of these videos that YouTube has removed or reports. That's how you research the information. So just don't always buy the official narrative from the bought-off controlled lamestream media. You call it lamestream because they're lame. Don't believe them. You know, I'm saying overall, at least if you still watch them, cross-reference the information. And be honest. If you're on the left, have an open mind. Stop just going along with when there's plenty of evidence I've gone over. I have friends who are on the left that can clearly see. That's why they're trying to smother the censorship. They're trying to make certain things canceled so you'll be afraid to mention whatever it is. You know, that's one of the tricks they use where they don't want the information getting out. They'll just decide to cancel a topic or something. Says that's why the current administration wants to keep. Okay, I read that comment already. Digger Gold and Shovel says, what do you think about the XOP situation? Okay, it says XR. I thought it was a typo, XRP. If you check out my previous video, right before this video that I did, on the last two videos, by the way, I touched on what's going on with that. It's part of you know, what they're implementing, by the way, with this part of this global currency reset. But remember, the cabal, they want something called a great reset, which I heard is something different. But yeah, XRP plays a role. But I covered that already in my previous videos. If you go back, Digger, and look at my previous two videos I did before this one, I touched on that. Very good information given by a private source that I have. Change This Life says they truly attacked Trump once he said we're going to drain the swamp. Yes, yep, sure enough. Gerald Jokes, it's been a minute, says I think you should hold some XRP is the bomb. Yep, that means you may really be in the know, but I was also informed if you're involved in cryptocurrencies, and this goes for myself, it will behoove you to get access to a what is it called? A storable hardware wallet where you can hold your private keys. I was informed privately. Something may be happening down the road. I was informed. I don't really do videos. I'm not that good at, yet with doing like tech videos. I guess I could, maybe if I worked on it, I could do a basic video to get, if you are involved, to take your cryptos off the exchanges if you have any on it, but be careful because you don't want to get holding a hot potato once they go through with the power outage or cyber attack happens. I was potentially, but remember Carl Schwab mentioned that. I went over this earlier in this same video. That's out of his own words, by the way. And you know who from Banned.Video, Alex played the clip of that, and that those people mean business. So yeah, that's part of what's going on. Yeah, and if you guys can, don't forget to thumbs up the video. Helps me rank higher in the search results. If you like this information, Gerald Jack says, "Yep, Nano Ledger. Yep, you're right." Says, but don't buy off Amazon. That's right. I forget about that. Be careful. You guys purchase a hardware wallet. You don't want to get it off of eBay or Amazon. You get it straight from the source out here, because what happens is people can open those up. They can take the private keys off of them, and they can repackage it. And then you end up purchasing it. And then now whenever you go, somehow they do a transaction, these people can test out or whatever, have a way, they know how to follow the blockchain, these hackers out there. That's what I've informed. So make sure you buy, if you get a hardware wallet, you buy it straight from the manufacturer. Because if you're buying it on eBay or Amazon, you're taking a risk, because there's people, just like I heard with laptops, the people who were using, years ago, we had Windows 8, were offering software on there free, because people who weren't tech savvy, that didn't know how to create a password and wipe the previous what do you call it, part of the operating system clean, then that person that had access, that sold that laptop, that had the IP address, that had access to the MAC address, or could hack in potentially, or could have installed a hidden malware or something. So stuff like that, you got to be careful of, because there's just so much of that going on. And I may down the road do a separate video about these people who are involved in these, I call it the underground economy or the black market. They're part of the problem. Because I had a situation, I didn't really go into tell you guys all the details about it. It happened to me last summer. I had someone that got access to my debit card information and purchased something without my permission, bought like $100 worth of CBD gummies. And I was able to find out once I saw the transaction and track the address down. And come to find out, it wasn't that far away from me. I found out I didn't follow up on this. I didn't file a police report like I should have. And I also did not go to the postal inspectors, but I found out the postal inspectors will investigate if you have something like this happen to you. I also found out I was able to do a postal intercept, but the problem was that the manufacturer was working with the thief, talking about, because it was already paid for off my card, even though my bank credited me the funds back, they still tried to send the CBD gummies out to the address. When I had them resend it to me, then I sent it back. They were still trying to have it sent to the person that used my credit card information, to show you how corrupt, how these corporations, and it said the credit card companies, a lot of them won't do enough to keep total security happening, because it's still business for them somehow to allow the black market, allow these hackers to do stuff. So I said, this is crazy. You have these big, even these banks and credit card manufacturers that are allowing this or in on this stuff and won't totally do things. They can put security mechanisms totally in place to stop even chips and stuff from being hacked, and they won't do it. So they create these back doors, and that's these people that are into this stuff are part of the problem. I can't stand those type of people. They don't want to work out here, and that's why I think they are the ones, those type of people that do that type of stuff. They need to be punished severely. And in other countries, you know, they take crimes and stuff serious, and it's a reason they do, and they don't have as much crime that happens, because people know the stakes are high. Certain countries, they'll cut your hand off. People know you get caught stealing. Nobody wants to have their hand cut off, so that'll keep a bunch of people from stealing. Just like with people that do stuff over here, the penalties need to be severe. You know, you have this mentality, even in the black community, where it's like these people always say, well, you know, you're being too hard, or, you know, we need to give them a slap on the wrist. But the problem is it incentivizes these criminals, these very bad people, to not learn a lesson. It's part of life. We go through experiences to learn, and when they're getting a slap on the wrist, and they're not getting reprimanded, and the elites are allowing this. This is a way that they're attacking the honest, law-abiding citizens in our society. You know, how can you sustain your society? So that's one thing to get on. If you do vote, stay on your state, your local legislatures about public safety, because it's important, by the way, to stay on them, on top of those types of things. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. I appreciate you all. I've said a mouthful. I've been on here for a minute, by the way. And if you guys want to follow me, check my previous video to check the description box with social media. I'm on Twitter, of course, at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Parler. By the way, Instagram is my more liberal side. Parler is my more conservative side, by the way. So until next time, guys, I'm going to get on out of here. Take it easy. Legends never die. They live in our hearts. The marathon will continue. Peace out.